Welcome to the Tea with Tamara podcast. I'm Tamara Arnold, and it wasn't that long ago that I was a broke single mom, drinking way too much, completely detached from everything. Now I've written multiple books, downloaded I Could Read Chakras, and I'm a channel for the universe. I'm a real person with real stories, and I can't wait to share them with you. So grab a warm bevy and let's have some enlightened conversation to live our best life. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. I have tried recording this opening little blurb for this episode probably 4 or 5 times, and nothing seems to come out right enough for how incredible this story Jenny Carr shares with us today is. And so I'm going to keep it as simple as possible and just say I am so honored and just full of gratitude that Jenny is sharing this personal story with us in our community here today for the first time. And I want to send her a lot of love. And so grab something to drink, sit yourself down, and allow the miracle of the universe to wash over you through this episode.
Oh my goodness, you guys. I am super stoked and excited to share one of my favorite people in the land with you. I remember the first time I met this person. We were on a group call I was writing my second book. She was writing her first book, and it was like instant chemistry. Again, you do hear that a lot when I'm starting these podcasts about how much everything is about vibration. And literally, it was like our eyes met on the crowded screen, and it was love at first sight. I don't even want to give too much information because I think that this conversation needs to flow in the most natural, organic way that it possibly can. But I will tell you this, why we are having this conversation today is to share with you something that is so powerful and can literally shift and change your life. And that's a bit of a teaser, but I want to introduce you to Jenny Carr. And I want to go back with you, Jenny, before we get into all of this amazing mind work that we've been talking about, because guys, we talked for 15 minutes before I pressed record here. I want you to give the synopsis of Jenny Carr before all of this magic has been occurring.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. And I'm so excited to energetically meet all of you guys who are listening. Thank you for showing up. Jenny Carr before I was doing this work, I had my whole life. So I've always been a little bit intrigued into, our intuition and psychics. I've always just had an interest in it, and throughout and along with my mom. And so we'd always for fun, we'd go get a reading or do different things. And the thing that I heard over and over and over was, Tamara's like me too.
Well, no, I have a question because whenever somebody says my mom and I used to go and be super interested, I'm curious at how old were you when this all began, right? When you were doing those kinds of things with your mom and going to see psychics and stuff, was that early teens, late teens?
I would say it was probably early teens. I don't remember it much earlier before that.
Right.
And actually, so my mom, it's interesting because my mom had Lyme disease. She owned a Western clothing design company. She sold her company, committed her whole life to healing from Lyme. And all the Western doctors that she went to, false diagnosed her, gave her stuff that made her very, very sick. And that, I think, began her spiritual journey, which she kind of just put her wings around me and took me with her without me realizing it.
So did she own the company when you were just little and then, get Lyme? And so that was your adolescence? That's how you grew up?
She owned it, yeah, since I was born. And then she sold it. She owned it for about 20 years. She sold it around when I was 20, but she kind of started the alternative healing journey a few years before that when I was in high school.
So sidebar here, you guys, and I know that Jenny's going to get to this, but what are the chances, Jenny Carr, that your mom went through a process that, technically you yourself have been on, maybe not, yours has been a bit more extreme, but you're kind of following in your mom's footsteps a little bit.
Completely following in my mom's footsteps. In so many regards. My mom also had cervical cancer when I was born, and you guys will hear this, but when my daughter was born, I became very sick. So my mom was very sick. And so as she was watching me and my health crisis and my near-death experience, she was, and with the stage that my daughter was at, she was like, I feel like I'm reliving my life again, which is fascinating.
Well, a little bit, right? So let's talk about how that can stop and your daughter doesn't have to go through that same experience. If you can kind of look at it from an ancestral or a genetic kind of playback patterning going over and over again. So you dropped a lot of bombs there for our listeners. You threw out, that you had your own journey, near-death experience came out. I'm sure everybody is like, what just happened? What is this Jenny Carr saying? So I know that your health journey, tell us about your health journey. So what were you doing before you actually had the health scare?
So I was I'll say super athlete. I was a Division I cross-country ski racer. I ran marathons. I used to run up mountains. I used to backpack. I climbed the highest mountain in Idaho, the second highest mountain in Wyoming. If you ask what defined me, it was being an athlete. That was my thing. That's what I loved. It's what was my religion. It was my spirituality. It's what grounded me. It's what connected me. And so that was my journey. And then when I had my first child, everything just kind of fell apart. I had a really tricky pregnancy, every symptom in the book, thought we were going into premature labor a bunch of times, tons of pain, gained 65, 70 pounds during the pregnancy. And I thought I was eating healthy as an athlete. You can kind of pull off often a lot of things that you want to eat that are healthy. But what I realized, and I knew nothing about inflammation at the time, which is what I do now. I'm an inflammation expert. But at the time, I knew nothing about it. And I'm like, oh, I'm pregnant. I'm craving this. Let's have a couple more cookies or let's have a few more things. And my hormones got out of whack. Everything, all the inflammation started to compound in my body. And I think in my son's. And so when he was born, the first year and a half of his life, he was on, I think, 8 to 10 rounds of antibiotics. That's almost every other month. He was on antibiotics. He had 2 operations. He had his adenoids removed. He has his tonsils removed. He was on IV antibiotics multiple times, sent to ICU. My baby boy, his whole respiratory had shut down multiple times, and it was chronic. It was happening over and over and over. And so that became my new journey. And I was listening to someone the other day, and they said, when you are healthy, you have so many dreams. I'm going to be an entrepreneur, or I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro, whatever it may be. You have all these dreams. But when you have a chronic illness, your only dream is to be healthy. And so my identity totally switched from that of being an athlete and wanting to, I was a teacher and doing all these amazing things and having social events and traveling, to my baby's sick, which I ended up getting very sick due to the inflammation and stress from him being sick. And it's all I want is for us to get healthy. And that's really where this very beginning journey began.
Right. And so I'm always curious about ages, where you were in your life journey, in your human body at that time, that all this stuff started to happen. Because that's a lot of stress, for a young person.
Yep. So I was between 28 and 29 and a half is how I was during that time.
That's a lot. It's a lot to carry at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's your first child. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just wanted to do everything I could to help my child and to help myself. And I was also teaching. I remember I was writing sub-plans as my son was going into the ICU. There was so much going on in my life that I felt was so important. I wanted to do the very best that I could at everything. And it absolutely sucked the life out of me.
Did you say you were teaching at that time too?
Yeah, I was a teacher. So I taught elementary and middle school for 10 years. And yeah, it was just like this crazy combination of trying to save every kid in my classroom, trying to save my own children, and then I ended up trying to save my own life.
So how long was your son in going through all of these health scares? Was that like...
Yeah, so it was the first year and a half of his life. So we gave him all the vaccinations, and every live vaccination that he got, he ended up getting that condition. So he got the rotavirus, he got the chicken pox, like his immune system was so suppressed that he couldn't handle those, but I didn't know it. And then, like I said, he had abscesses in his throat that like he collapsed in front of me multiple times, like stopped breathing. All of this was a chronic thing that happened for about a year and a half. And when we came back the final time from the hospitals, we were in Primary Children's Hospital 5 hours away in Salt Lake City. And we were there for about 4 weeks. And when we finally came home, we found out that he had a sensory condition, which a sensory condition is a behavioral condition that more and more children are being diagnosed with. And similar to autism, how it lands on a spectrum, sensory condition lands on a spectrum. And some of the things that happen are like clothes can feel extremely uncomfortable. So for example, a drop of water would land on his shirt, Tamara, and he would scream and say, Mom, it hurts. And he'd just try and tear his shirt off. His transitions at school were very, very difficult for him. He had a difficult time communicating when he got frustrated. He like couldn't process. Attention deficit was like, his attention was really struggled. And then also organization. So there's a lot of different things that fall into the sensory condition, but his was quite severe. And we found out about that when he was around 2 years of age, which kind of began my journey of, I was like, okay, my mom had, for the first time, I told you she had Lyme disease. And for the first time, the only thing that was helping her symptoms go away is when she started to work with an anti-inflammatory health coach. And then when I came out of the hospital with my son, if you can imagine, a year and a half of dealing with this little boy, multiple surgeries, so sick, ICU, like writing sub plans when he's in the ICU, I was so beyond stressed, so tapped out. The stress, the inflammation was just over, and I was eating terrible because I was stressed and craving and trying to comfort myself. So my hormones were out of whack. I was gaining weight, extreme fatigue, like major adrenal fatigue, wanted to go to bed at 5 o'clock every night. Depression, I got an antidepressant medicine. I am the girl that loves life, like never in a million years did I think that would happen to me. And so coming out of this, it's like my son has a sensory condition that's severe. It's impacting his day-to-day well-being. I feel like crap. I went to the doctors and they told me I was getting some sort of autoimmune disease they couldn't diagnose. And my mom said, look, this worked for me. Try it for you. And it worked for me. All my symptoms melted away. And I said, okay, if it works, go ahead.
So like, I just need clarity. So,
Yeah.
Your son is 2 years old now. And so your mom says, go see a inflammation coach, because that's what helped me. So you say your symptoms all disappeared and things like that. But what happened when you went to see the inflammation coach? It's like, there's a gap here for me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so thank you. When we know our own work, we forget to share. So it's essentially that person helped to teach me and my mom what foods were causing chronic inflammation. And inflammation is at the root of these chronic symptoms. So the hormonal imbalance, the depression that I was experiencing, the bloating, the nausea, the extreme fatigue, all of these were showing up because of chronic inflammation in my body. And the number one way at that time for me to push it out, and for most of us, is through diet and lifestyle, right? So that's where I began to learn about meditation. That's where I began to learn about how water does more for us other than just hydrating, how it supports our detox process and upregulates the detox pathways. I learned about food and what foods cause inflammation and how you can swap them out and still, without feeling deprived. And that really marked my journey, because when I started to heal, I saw my mom heal, and I said, all right, let's give 2 weeks. I'm going to make all my son's food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, snacks, the whole works, 2 weeks. His sensory condition improved so significantly. It was night and day. And in 2 months, it was 85% better. So
what?
85% better in 2 months.
That's
like
so
game
big.
Right. And I'm like, okay, at the time I didn't know I had Lyme. I did, but I didn't know it. So I'm like, my mom's healing from Lyme. I'm like losing weight. My hormones are balancing. Like I feel so amazing. I'm not nauseous. I have energy. Like all my symptoms were just melting away. And now my son, who has a sensory condition, like this isn't being diagnosed with something, taking a medicine for that particular thing. It's like this way of eating and living helps so much. How can we have to continue?
Did you continue teaching through all of that stuff with your son? Was there a point where you left teaching?
I left teaching when I had my daughter. So my son Tosh and my daughter Chloe are 4 years apart.
I was going to ask a question about how after the stress of your first child, you did go back and do it again.
So in 4 years. Yep. It took a little while. And what happened was when I had my daughter, she would not take a bottle. And when I had Tosh, when you teach, like I just dried up so quickly, I couldn't nurse because you have like 20 minutes during the day to yourself, and I couldn't pump enough during that time. And I had learned about inflammation, and I had learned about, unfortunately at that time, and maybe even now, like I couldn't find a formula that was free of inflammation. And I was like, you know what? My doctor said, more than likely, Chloe, there's a good chance you'd have the same respiratory issues. And I said, there's no way I'm going to put myself through that or my daughter through that. Like if she won't take a bottle, it's like, again, this is the intuition growing. This is a sign. And between that 4 year period of time, I had gone and became a certified inflammation coach, health coach, certified personal trainer, all those things kind of for my own self-growth. It was not as an intention to create my own business, but my daughter, I always say our kids are our greatest teachers. And she was totally pushing me to take this leap.
So you threw down not that long ago that you between this 4 year period of Tosh and Chloe, that, you said, well, you were going through this. At the time, you didn't know you had Lyme disease. So where in the story does this come out?
Yeah. So what happened was about 9 years after I had my son, maybe 7 years after I had my son, I love to travel. I've traveled the world doing like adventure travel, like fly fishing in the Amazon and trekking through Thailand and safari in Africa, like fun stuff, adventurous things, right? And never did I think like, ooh, careful, you might get parasites, like eating this, random crickets at the African like markets or jumping in the waters in the Amazon. Like I just never thought about that. And what happened is when my dad and we had gone to a fly fishing trip in the Amazon, we both returned and I started having a lot of the similar symptoms I did when my son was sick. So gaining weight, hormones out of whack, nausea, extreme fatigue, really feeling down again. But my diet didn't change. And that had been the game changer before. And I'm thinking everyone I've ever helped, I had 100% success with, but I could not for the life of me cure myself or my dad. My dad was so bad, like he thought he had cancer. I mean, we did every test under the sun and everything came back negative. And it was when I finally said, I'm going to my intuitive friend. I'm going to have her do some channeling and I'm going to ask what is going on with my dad because I was so worried about him. And she said, her answer actually was, he needs to come use this crystal laser. You'll love this, Tamara. I don't know if I've told you this. He needs to come use this crystal laser that uses vibrational frequency to help heal him. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, all right, you're having me come back. Like, I don't know. I was not totally bought in. And a few months later, my dad was so bad. I said, go use the crystal laser. Like, just do it. Like, nothing harm is going to come from it. And he did. And what this laser actually came out of Germany, which is a leading medical country in the world. They're so on top of it. And this uses vibrational frequency. You can set it to thousands, maybe millions of different settings and some specific settings for parasites. My dad was pretty sure he had parasites, and it will tell you on a scale of 0 to 20,000 how severe it is, right? 20,000 is for an idea, is like cancer. Like it's intense. And my dad topped out 19,997. The next day he had hundreds of parasites come out of his body that we visually saw.
Sorry, I'm making a really gross face, you guys.
I know, it's gnarly. I'd say I've been living in a sci-fi movie for the last 4 or 5 years. But this is me. I go, Dad, I wonder if that thing does hormones. And he was like, are you kidding me? Because I'm thinking my hormones are out of balance. Maybe it can help me. He said, Jenny, you have the same symptoms as me. You were with me in the Amazon. He's like, I'm paying for your session. You're going to go use the crystal laser for parasites. And the exact same thing happened to me. And so that there began, we have been tested for parasites. We have been tested. I had gone to every Western, and it's not to say Western doctors are bad. It's just for certain conditions, it's difficult to diagnose. And this Lyme and parasites happens to be one of those. And that really began my journey to deepen my spiritual practice and intuition, because I was finally being diagnosed and proven that was going on. And that happened through an intuitive process.
And so was it the same woman who did the laser for your parasites? Is she the one who found the Lyme as well?
No, so she didn't find the Lyme, and I didn't ask her about it. And so, but I was directed to this place down in Mexico, and I went to a doctor who does live blood analysis. He's an MD doctor. He does live blood analysis, and he found the Lyme. And then for the first time, I was able to have an MD doctor say, he looked at a picture of this parasite and he said, have you been to Africa and South America? And I just started bawling. I was like, someone understands. Because when you have parasites, and sometimes Lyme, although it's getting better now, more mainstream, but so many doctors don't believe you. So many doctors told me there was no way I could be so sick, that there's like, I heard, in fact, I live in Wyoming, the primary intestinal internist doctor for parasites, he's like registered with the White House and this big national conference. Over the phone, he told me I don't have parasites based off of what I was sharing. And he blocked me from going to specialists in Salt Lake. I almost died from these, you guys. I had parasites so severe, they put holes through almost all my organs and ate away my endocrine glands. When they die, they release bacteria. So they release a lot of different strains of Lyme that were super rare, as well as a virus that causes leukemia. That was in my body. And again, like, I was trying to get a diagnosis. I didn't know it at the time. And it took someone willing to listen, and it took that intuitive process to figure it out.
And so I'm just so curious here. So like when you were talking about the Lyme, you didn't know you had it after you had Tosh. Was he able to go back and tell you, like, for the extreme case that you had, you most likely would have had to have had it for X amount of time?
Yeah, 20 years. So they think that I got it when I went to Africa, probably from a parasite in Africa that released the virus and the bacteria. And so
you were never even bit by a tick, and you developed Lyme disease.
Not that we're aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so not great. But like, it's fascinating. But I'm like, it's just great, right?
Yes.
And, but like, how?
Putting the puzzle pieces together.
Right. And so like, how old are you now? So we know that you were 28 when you had Tosh, you know what I mean? Like, now where are we in your life journey?
I'm 38, so 10 years.
It's been 10 years. So you mentioned even earlier in our conversation that you came to a near-death experience. Like, where was that around that same time?
Yeah, so it was a year after my daughter was born. So that she's 5, so it was about 4, or she's 5. Yeah. So it was about 4.5 years ago. I started to get really sick again. And that was when this whole crystal laser came about, because my dad was ill. And it was peeling back many layers, like figuring out, okay, we had parasites, but we didn't know that parasites release crazy amounts of neurotoxins. And because my organs were structurally compromised, my endocrine glands were eaten. My detox pathways were shot, and my organs couldn't process toxins. So I was going into organ failure. But mind you, for about a year and a half, the first year and a half, I didn't have a full picture of what was happening. I didn't know that the virus that causes leukemia was active in my body. I didn't know that I had Lyme. All of these things were just, adding to the sabotage in my body. And I would think like I was so mad at my body is what I felt. So much shame, to be honest. I felt so much embarrassment. Here I am being a health coach, and I'm fighting for my life. And I gained 80 pounds in over about 3 years of time from all the neurotoxins that my body couldn't process. So it added stored fat pockets to keep it away from my organs as a survival mechanism. But at the time, I didn't know all this. I didn't understand I just thought my body was broken. My body was broken. And I hated myself. I hated my body and I hated myself. And I could say it without blinking an eye.
So this went on for 10 years. So you got the diagnosis from Mexico when you were 38? Like that's when you started to work with that guy?
No, that was when I was around 30, 33, 34.
All right. And so then from 33, 34, that's when everything started to get worse. Like that's where you gained the weight, you were a health coach and all those kinds of things. So what made you, because again, I met Jenny Carr, sorry, I have to say your first and last name. It's just one of those names, Jenny Carr. I met Jenny Carr when she was writing your book. What was the inspiration for you to actually like decide, even when you were going through all of this stuff, because you didn't have all of the answers and everything when I met you, and decide to write this book while you were still so sick?
Yeah. So when we all, and this is what Tamara helps so many of us figure out, we all have our magic stardust, right? And I didn't know that term back then, but I knew that I was put on this planet to help other people heal. That, like, for sure, like without a doubt. And not being it, you guys, I was bedridden for about 2 years of that time, like bedridden for the majority of those years. Unable to be a mom. I couldn't help my kids do homework. I couldn't bring them to practice. I used to be a cross-country ski coach. I couldn't coach my kids. I definitely was not able to show up and help my clients the way I wanted to, or at all at some point in time. And that, it made me worse. It made my symptoms worse. Like not being able to follow through with our passion for me was detrimental. And I remember so vividly the first time that I heard about Angela Loria, who we wrote our first book with, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can write a book. When I feel good, I can start writing. And when I'm not good, I can lie in bed and heal. This is something I can do where I can show up and still help people. There's no way in hell that I was meant to go through all of this sickness, all this disease, fight for my life, be bedridden for years of like my quote unquote prime time in life, unless there was a greater purpose. And for me, I really believe that greater purpose was to help other people.
And so Jenny and I worked together as well through the Chakra Business Academy. And one of the things that when I was doing your original reading, we had talked about was the fact that you were not physically in your body. Do you remember that?
Oh, vividly, yes.
Me too, because that was the first time ever in reading that I actually felt you come in. Like I was with you and we cried as we like brought your very essence, it makes me emotional right now, back into your body. Because when you had said you hated your body, like you legitimately had left energetically. You didn't want to be present for anything that was going on.
And what was most profound to me that I just have to share, and I think it goes along with, Tamara, what we're going to continue talking about in terms of our spiritual path and experiencing miracles in our life. I remember when you said, you're not in your body, and you said, how can you expect, like imagine an abandoned house, right? There's going to be like termites and spiders and like rats and stuff taking over. That was like symbolic of the parasites in the Lyme in my body. She said, you need to come back in. And I told you, I don't know if you remember this, but I said, I've had so many different, at this point in time, I'd worked with a lot of different intuitive type practitioners because they were the people that really greatly saved my life. And I said, I've worked with so many people, they've told me the same thing, but I can't get in. I don't know how to get in. And you're like, just make up your mind and do it. Like, it was like almost, you're like, it's simple. Like you just decide you're going to do it and you do it. Like, and in my mind, it's like, there has to be this big process and like, there's got to be some other magic answer, some magic key. And I remember I was holding my computer talking to you, and I was actually walking on my back patio. Like I was so not sitting in like some special like meditation pose or anything. I'm like holding my computer, walking on my back patio. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. And I took a deep breath and I did it. And I was like, I saw my body out of me, above me. And I was like, okay, like body, come in. and then I felt it and you felt it. And it was like, whoa, that was like this click of like, I actually have some control over my body and its well-being. And it is control that's, I don't know if you call that spiritual, but I call it spiritual. You know, it's this belief, it's this connection to oneself or the high, I don't even know what it is, but that was like my first aha. I have control.
Oh, like, again, you and I experienced something together. It was a shared experience because I had never felt at that time somebody physically entering their body, like where I was like, oh my God, I'm with you. Like that just happened. And so that was, my goodness, that was only a year and a half ago, I think. Yeah, that was last June.
Yes. So cool. So amazing.
So amazing. Because that, from what happened a year and a half ago to where you are now, like this is really powerful because you it's almost like, you know, where you're looking at the roller coaster where this was like an up, but then you were going to go down again before the big finale, the big climactic, what we're going to talk about. So explain how like you were rising, your energy was getting better, things were getting, and then how you crashed again.
Wow. You know, I actually crashed a couple times, but the big crash happened. Well, the first time was when my book was actually coming out, and I remember having to make the decision not to go to the red carpet event and like publish, the book was published, but promote the book. And that was a really, you know, I'd worked so hard. I'd been through all this. That was a tough decision, but it was one that was aligned with my body. I was a partner with my body for the first time versus suddenly, you know, being like, oh, I'm so annoyed at you, body. I can't do this. And so I really do think after that, there was some amazing healing. And that is where I began to create and cultivate the most beautiful relationship with my body as my best friend, as my partner in life, as, you know, we're totally on the same team, just like this incredible thing. And I got really excited. I was feeling so good. And when we feel really good, man, sometimes that's where we can get knocked down because we do too much. And that's exactly what happened. And I got knocked down really, really hard. And for about 4 months, I had to put a pretty big halt on my work and just focus again on going inward and healing.
So this brings us to the place, because you've been to the, what is the name of the place that you went for?
Okay, so in India, I've been there 3 times, and the place, it originally was called the Oneness University. It is now called the O&O Academy, the One World Academy, O&O Academy.
And so you'd been to this place a few times in your life already, right? And so something about it drew you back if you'd gone multiple times. So share a little bit about that experience and then tell us about what happened recently.
Yeah, so the Oneness University or the O&O Academy is just magic. Like that, it is connecting what we call limitless consciousness. It's connecting the consciousness with the higher power, whatever that is for you. For me, it was this golden ball of light that I call the golden orb. You know, for some people, it's Jesus or Buddha, or it doesn't matter what it is. It's just connecting. They help you to connect even stronger to this higher power, to this limitless consciousness, and go into your subconscious so that you can see what they call molds or patterns in our life that just happen, right? These things, they're ways that we think, they're actions we take. They just happen because they're patterns, they're molds from our society. And they put us through meditations and processes to help us release these subconscious patterns in many different areas: health, relationships, business, all kinds of stuff. And so every time I went there, I had mystical experiences. I had very real, tangible experiences where, you know, I would get home and the way I interacted with my husband or the way he interacted with me was different, or my children or work. Like, I just call it magic because I don't know how else to describe it. Just so much magic was showing up in my life every time I did it. And this just pulled me more and more into curiosity and like, how do I continue down this path?
And so, like, were you feeling really crummy? Is that what drew you to go back this last time?
Yes. So the last time I went was a year ago, exactly. And yes, I was feeling terrible. I went to heal, which is funny. People say like, you're going to India to heal parasites. And I'm like, yes. And I packed all my own food. Like I did not like, I was very, very clean about that. But the parasites do not do well in high vibrational frequency. And so this place was all about raising your frequency in the most unbelievable ways.
But then how long ago was it since the big healing? Was that not
so
through the place?
but it wasn't in India. Okay. So, about 3 months ago, there was a course offered in a small mountain town near me called Sun Valley, Idaho. And, it's called Beautiful State. It was the most recent course put out by the O&O Academy. And I went there, I took it. I didn't really have expectations. It was a 2-day process. And what happened was I was brought to a subconscious thought of really being frustrated, anger, resentful, all of these like really intense negative emotions towards my body my entire life. And what specifically I saw was the moment when I was a child where, we all experience at some point in time this beautiful freedom. We can run around naked and we can dance in the wildflowers. Like we can do all these fun things, and that we don't think there's anything wrong with us, wrong with our choices, wrong with our body. It's just the most beautiful freedom. And what this process specifically did for me was brought me to the exact moment where that freedom changed, and where I began to judge myself based off of a comment someone made to me. And it was an innocent comment. It was not meant to hurt. But I, in that moment, thought, oh my gosh, something's wrong with my body. And for some reason that I don't fully understand, but what was shown to me in this process is that every outside event, so every event that was, had to do with friends or skiing or having babies or getting married or being sick, like all these major kind of milestone events throughout my life from that moment when I was probably, because I know you'll probably ask, I was probably around 8 or 9 when that moment took place.
You want to ask what the comment was too, just sidebar.
Yeah. And I was showing you guys how like in elementary school, I felt like I didn't have friends and I blamed it on my body. When I was in middle school, same thing. I didn't feel like I fit in. I blamed it on my body. When I got to high school, I became this amazing athlete. I competed at junior national level, but I rarely won races. And so it was like, still wasn't good enough. I blamed my body for not winning the races. And then when I, had babies and my body didn't bounce back quick, it's like, what's wrong with you, body? And all my friends' bodies bounce back. And you're not. Like, when I got sick, it was so much shame. Like I just was shown that all these major kind of, time lapses over my life, that no matter what, I was resentful, angry, shameful, embarrassed, upset towards my body. And then in this process, it's so ironic, you guys, if you were here and you could see, I just got a brand new puppy that I know Tamara can see, a little healer. And that's actually really ironic that we're talking about this, because in this process, I was shown a little dog that looked up at me. Oh my gosh, I know this is just hitting me too, Tamara. This little dog that looked up at me, and it gave me these puppy dog eyes, and it told me, no matter what you say to me, no matter what you do to me, I will always be your loyal companion and I will always love you. And that was symbolic. I was shown in the meditation that dog was symbolic of my body. That was like my body talking to me. And in that moment, for some reason, that message, that symbolism, it hit me to the core. And my body, my physical body, my energetic body, every being of me was flooded with the most authentic gratitude, with the most sincere love, like in the cells and the molecules and the organs and the tissues and the space in between and the air, and like everywhere. There was so much freedom. There was so much space inside my body. And I don't know how to describe it other than it felt profound. And I went up and I told the teacher of this course, I said, I just had an incredible healing, and I don't know what happened, but I feel it. And like something major happened. And so I went home and I exercised for 10 days in a row. You guys, before the 5 years before that, if you remember, I was a Division I athlete, a big athlete. I hadn't been able to exercise for more than 2 or 3 days in a row without being knocked down in bed for a week or so. Because I had no energy. It would make the neurotoxins release, which would knock me down. 10 days in a row, I did it. And then I gardened all day. And then I had time to and energy to bring my kids to the movies and then have play dates. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just got my life back that I have not had in so many years. And so I called up one of my friends and physicians who is and she was an intuitive medical person who'd been helping me through this whole process, the lady with the crystal lasers, right? And I said, this is what's happened. Can you please scan my body and just tell me what you're seeing? And she was like, Jenny, I've never seen this before. I've in classes been told it can happen, but your autoimmunity is gone, overnight gone. And since that day, you guys, I have not had any big detoxes except for one, which I brought on myself in a meditation that I told Tamara about. But I did 3.5 weeks of traveling, said goodbye to my grandfather as he passed over. I went to a red carpet event. I traveled to 6 different places in 3.5 weeks. I could never have done that before, not even remotely. I came home feeling better than I left. My body is healing in the most miraculous ways. And yes, diet and lifestyle are huge, but this was the golden key, literally the golden key that changed it all.
And not only the golden key, but you felt it as a golden light, right? You felt it as all-encompassing love and gratitude. And you cannot speak of whatever divinity you choose to put your love into. When you think about it, just love and gratitude is the basic foundation of the oneness, of the collective, of whatever religion or belief you have. That is the basis, the foundation of it all.
Yeah. And this brought me so much closer to that, because every time I talk to Tamara, what you hear out of my mouth is, it's crazy. And Tamara always says, it's not crazy for me. This is my life. But these are so real. They're so concrete. This experience, and then the many more that I have had in the last couple of months through more meditations where, I say, okay, I want to push out this toxin, and then it happens. Or it's I have control over my body, its ability to release toxins, its ability to heal, its ability for organs to completely regenerate, for systems to connect. I have the ability to make my body do this, to be its partner and helping it do it through connecting to this limitless consciousness, to the higher good, to the higher spirit. I don't even know, but this is what's happening.
So I'm going to bring it to something that I truly believe, which is that you made the conscious decision to start seeking within, Jenny Carr. You went from looking at it being an external thing, or blaming the external, or, you know what I mean, saying it's because of anything that was happening on the outside, and really did the work to bring yourself back into your human body, learn to have a relationship with your human body, start to, like you were saying, be best friends, to connect, to show love and gratitude. And it was in the awareness of you coming within, truly and completely, that created the space for you to legitimately open up to that subconscious. I did ask this question, but I want to go back and ask it again, because I think we don't realize how much, when I talk about, when most people come to me, it's because they have stored energy in their body that they need to start unpacking, right? And so you're 8 or 9, and somebody makes one comment that wasn't necessarily a bad comment in your direction. I really want to help the people listening understand what the comment was, so they can kind of relate that it doesn't have to be somebody being a jerk to you. It can be something in passing.
Yes. Okay, so this comment, it came from my dad, and we grew up in a little log cabin. And I was standing in front of the wood fireplace. We're all watching National Geographic. I was in my pajamas, and he looked over and he goes, "Is that your gut?" like kind of teasing, kind of not, like it wasn't like, oh, you need to do something about it. It was just like, whoa, it was just kind of this like teasing type comment, but not really funny, and I was like, what? My gut? Like, I'm like, what I have a gut? Like, what's a gut? Like, I remember all these thoughts going through my mind. Like, I have a gut. What's a gut? What's wrong with the gut? Is there something wrong with me? Like, why are you pointing this out? Like all of this suddenly. And I'm like, oh, something's wrong with me. Like something's wrong with me. And that was the moment. But, it can be, and in this process, they showed us actually a number of videos and examples where we just play around with our kids, where we say things that are innocently or quote unquote teasing. And at the right time, in the right place, man, that can sink into our subconscious level. And it, that's a hard thing to take as a parent. Like, I know that I have very likely said a number of things and done a number of things to my children unconsciously that subconsciously will impact them. And so the best I can do is model this work so that they can do it for themselves as they grow and they,
right. But I would say that, before we come into these human bodies, we've already decided the journey that we are going to be taking, right? So like they chose us as a parent for whatever experience that they need to go through to get to their space, because it doesn't matter, even the best parents, even like, the greatest upbringings and everything, we still have to go through, our inner energetic beings to, really connect to who we are and why we are placed on this earth. So I don't want you to feel bad. And I don't
That makes me feel so much better. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, no. This is like, it's so powerful when we get to that understanding and that awareness that they chose us for the experience. And yes. No matter what we say, as long as it's through love, like, you know what I mean? They're going to go through what it is that they chose to go through in order to be at the highest level of service in their earthly body that they possibly can as well. But Jenny Carr, there's so many other incredible things. So like, we were talking before we got on and you were saying, because you've been aware of intuition and, your gifts and what you were capable of on and off your whole life, or else you wouldn't have been going and experiencing these psychic things with your mom and then going to India to oneness. We had a conversation right before we got on where, you are calling it your stages of intuition. Can you share that with everyone?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because I think the first time I became aware of intuition, I just had this curiosity, or I was dragged in with my mom and her curiosity. And then people telling me, oh, you're highly psychic. You're all of these different intuitive components. And that brought forth curiosity. But with that also came this this desire to then want to achieve. Like, I'm like, well, I want to hear my guides. I want to hear like all of my spiritual, like however I can connect to them. I wanted to see vividly. I wanted to hear really clearly. I wanted to, I'm passing the puppy over. I wanted to really have direct communication because me, Tamara, I was very heavy in my mind and not necessarily in the trusting. And so I took like daily OM classes. I signed up for tons of courses. I went to every single person I could to have readings and channelings. And I really immersed myself into that world. And it took tons of practice. And you know what it took? Letting go. We hear so much about surrender and trust, but it wasn't until I was at my very lowest point that I had no option but to surrender and trust. And really, that's when everything.
You also said you didn't believe it. Like, you just didn't believe yourself in the beginning as well.
No, I second guessed everything, and I honestly, I'm still I now have the awareness to catch myself when I'm second guessing and let go. But it is definitely a habit that has been highly ingrained in me.
And so I just want to take a moment here because I know that this has been such a spiritual journey, and I'm so happy that you've shared it because truly, 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 we've heard it. If you've watched The Secret, or you are into spirituality, that our mind is our most powerful tool, and we have the capacity to create our reality at whatever vibrational level that we can. But I also want to just take a moment here, you guys, to say how freaking amazing Jenny Carr is in what it is that she does. So as an inflammation coach, from you look at, the universe sent you into this journey long before you knew it was going to be your life experience, right? And now you wrote this book a year and a half ago, Piece of Cake. Is that the name? That's the name of the book, right?
Piece of Cake. Yeah, Piece of Cake, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet.
What has happened in your world since this book came out?
So much. And I pause and close my eyes and just feel the gratitude when you say that, to be honest. The feeling I get, because I've become an international best-selling author, but beyond that, far beyond that, is I have literally had hundreds of people write me and tell me how their chronic symptoms have either melted away, diminished, or significantly improved, and that they've done this while still enjoying the foods they love, through ease and grace, right? It's such a gift, and it means, I'm going to cry. It means so much to me because it was really hard and it was really dark. There were times I didn't want to live when I was so sick. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. I wanted to crawl into a hole. I felt so helpless and hopeless. And to know that I can be of service and help other people so that they don't have to experience that, it's beyond the greatest gift that I could receive. And so there's been so much magic, and that, though, has been hands down the most profound component, as well as writing my second book, The Clean Eating Kid, which is going to be helping our youngest generation to do the same thing, and families. And sorry, I just wasn't expecting that.
That was so beautiful because, right?
I always cry around you.
I have that. That's the thing. That's what people say. Something that I help, inspire in people is to release and let go. That's a thing too. But I want to talk about your manifestation skills. Let's talk about your vision board last year and all the crazy things you were no way, and how much has been achieved by the visualization.
It is so cool. So I made a vision board with Tamara last year. What are we at? 10 months ago about? And 11 months ago, I guess. And in that vision board, I had things like gain complete health and vibrancy, heal my body. People say that when you have an autoimmune disease, you will have it for life. People say that when you have Lyme disease, you just have to figure out how to manage it and that it will be with you for life. And I'm here to tell you that that is not my experience. That is not my experience. Sometimes we put these comments, these rules around things, and if we're open to breaking them, if we're open to possibility, so much magic can happen. And so check. Just, one of the many things on my vision board, create a group coaching program. Check. To I am presenting at Rancho La Puerta, which is rated the #1 destination health and wellness spot in the world. And they normally it's 2 years out. It's so hard to get in. And they asked me to come, and they actually said, can you come next month? Which I couldn't. They said, can you come in February? So I'm going in February. I'm teaching cooking classes. I'm presenting. I've been in major NBC, ABC, iHeartRadio, Mind Body Green, Well and Good, so many amazing publications. I'm just trying to think of it. I've been able to be more athletic. So that was my goal, is to be able to run and ski like a certain number of days, which I wasn't able to until now. Like recently, a few months ago, I was able to start exercising every day, like such a gift, because remember that was like my that's who I was. And so to be able to reconnect to nature and my body in that way is so beautiful. I'm just trying to think of it. Like Oprah I haven't told you this. So Oprah was on there to be on Oprah, which I did pitch Oprah, and I wasn't accepted. This is like the Oprah. But ironically, I was asked to be on the Asian Oprah. So this woman who's dubbed the Asian Oprah, I was asked to be on her show. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is hysterical that like the Asian Oprah asked me, and that was on my vision board. So it has been and amazing healing in my marriage and my relationship. Like that was a big one on my vision board. Any of the, and to write The Clean Eating Kid, my second book. You guys, these are like lifetime accomplishments. And in 11 months, done. We just need to work on the Oprah. Like that's the last. Like,
we can put that on the vision board for 2019, right? 2019. But it kind of came true. Like
it kind of came true.
Were you that specific? Did you say?
Oh, I did have a picture of her. I did have a picture of her on there with me, so I'm okay.
I'm still going to give the universe a high five here for this one.
Totally. I was like, are you just telling me I'm on my way? Or like, so, which ironically, I have Oprah's her producer, like the email contact. And like today, a synchronicity happened where I'm like, oh, I'm totally going to email her now because I have this amazing story to share. Anyhow, like it's in the works. It's happening.
So I just had to tell this story too, because like I love vision boards. I've been making them for like every year for years, and they are truly a significant shifting device in my life and my business and what I'm able to accomplish. And so I knew Jenny Carr, that yours was like the bomb, and that everything basically that you had put on there had come true. So are you going to make one this year?
Oh yeah, well, so can we like publicly ask you to hold another vision board workshop, please? Can we do it again?
It's so funny because I was thinking about doing one. I was actually thinking, and I was like, because last year I only did it for the select people that were in my like programs and things, but I was like, how do I make it so that I can have a universal one for everybody? So you just are the like nod I needed to figure out how to make that happen. So we are going to actually do that, and I will get that up and running.
Merry Christmas, everyone. You guys do not miss out on this. It is awesome. It's so transformational. And I was kind of like, at first, I'm like, we're going to do like arts and crafts. I don't know. But I'm like, it's Tamara, like trust. Okay. And I took a picture of it. I put it on my phone screen. I put it on my computer screen. I looked at it every day and just set that intention. And I also started like putting check boxes like, okay, this happened, check, this happened, check, and yeah, so you guys, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, I'm doing it, and you're coming, and we're going to share the experience. It was always done at the near the end of December, you guys, just because this will come out this coming Thursday, actually. So this will come out on the 29th of November, this podcast. And so we got lots of time for me to put the link in everywhere for everybody to come and participate in that. Oh my God, that was too funny. Way to throw it down like randomly. Yeah. But I just like anyone who is listening and who is like suffering from any discomfort or inflammation or really connects to your story, Jenny Carr, and everything that you've been through and needs your support and your care and your love, where can they go to find you, to connect with you, to, be in some Jenny Carr light?
Come get some Jenny Carr love. Okay, so you can go to www.jennycarrhealth. That's JENNYCARR health.com. You can grab a free copy of my international best-selling book, Piece of Cake, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet. I have a meal plan there, and you can also sign up to be on my VIP book launch team for the Clean Eating Kid book, which comes out this fall. So there's lots of amazing information. I have a group coaching program that's launching in January if you guys want to restart or to really figure out how to adopt anti-inflammatory eating, reverse chronic symptoms without feeling overwhelmed and deprived, and then I offer VIP coaching too. So lots of different ways to get in touch.
I'm gonna have to put some links up in the show notes for this. Awesome. But because that's a lot. But can they all find that all at jennycarhealth.com?
You can find it all at jennycarhealth.com. Yeah.
Cool. And so one of my favorite questions to ask, just to kind of end off here a little bit, because I am the hugest book nerd, which everybody knows. Like, if it's not self-development, it's fantasy. But like, if you can, and it doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction, share your favorite or most impactful book that you have ever read that has significantly changed your life, what would it be?
That's a good question. And there's a very specific book I'm thinking of that was a big part of my spiritual journey. You know how I said, like, I took like every course in like a daily like went to all these different channelers and intuitive people. And I read this book, dang it, I want to say it's called Environ or something. I'm going to find out what it is, and can we put it in the link of this comment, because it is actually, it's a channel book, and it talks about how things work in the spiritual world. And in reading that book and then talking with, literally probably hundreds of different intuitive people, I've found a very common theme to, like, yes, the way they describe this book is the way that I hear everyone else saying that their experiences in the spirit world. So it's a really quick read. It's a concrete book. It doesn't feel really woo-woo, but it was very powerful in helping me, my mind, because I have a strong mind, trying to grasp how things work. It starts with an I, but I'll find it and I'll let you guys know.
Ooh, I'm so excited. See, this is why I asked this question, so that I can just make my book reading list go like greater and greater and greater. Because I read at least one self-development book a week, right? So like, I'm just like, give me more information.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting. It's not necessarily self-development, but it's like, it almost puts you in a process, to be honest. So it's like that self-growth in that way.
Yes. Yes. So cool. Oh, Jenny Carr, I love you. And I am so honored that you came on and shared this story with my listeners and with me, because there was a lot of things that I didn't know, and we talked. And so like, this was so cool. I'm so grateful. And, I send so much love to you, and for, being on this journey with me and sharing your journey with me and connecting today. So with so much love and gratitude. Thank you.
I love you so much. And Tamara, I mean, I've told you this, and you guys probably see like my test. If you go to Tamara's website, I think my testimonial is still there from our work together. Like, you totally changed my life, and you changed it and the way I connected with my body. You changed it in the way my belief of how simple things could be. And that is profound. That is so huge. And yes, like my business, all of that, like your help is what made such a huge difference. But for me, it was really like, our beliefs can just get in the way, and our molds and structures, like, things can be easy and we can heal ourselves. And thank you. Thank you.
That was like, you're gonna make me cry, but that was the most beautiful way to end today. And so, guys, I'll put all of this information in the show notes, and you can contact Jenny Carr or myself if you ever have any questions. Have such a magical day.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Oh my God, that was so powerful.
That was awesome.
Oh, I haven't even pressed second. I didn't press stop record.
We should totally leave that in.
Totally leaving.